Under the tranquil skyline of Charlotte, darkness has often worn a familiar face. A lover was executed in his home. A businessman was stabbed in daylight. A family burned where they once prayed. And a body sealed in plastic silence. These crimes tore through ordinary lives, leaving behind echoes that justice can't silence and decades in prison that can't bring the dead home. And this is Inside Charlotte's Most Dangerous Black Killers, Shocking Murders, and True Crime Documentary. Welcome back to Justice Reversed, where real crimes meet real justice. Number 1. Tahj Matthias Ji'Reh Wall. Under the calm sky of a Carolina morning, love turned fatal before anyone heard the first echo of a gunshot. On the 27th of May 2021, 23-year-old Tahj Matthias Ji'Reh Wall fatally shot his 40-year-old boyfriend, Curtis Hopper, inside their shared home on South Weldon Street. What began as a heated argument ended with 2 bullets to the back of Hopper's head, an execution-style killing that prosecutors later described as calculated and deliberate. Evidence revealed that Hopper had been trying to leave the room when the first shot struck. He was still alive when Wall fired the second. After the shooting, Wall loaded Hopper's body into his car, covered it with a purple blanket, and began a macabre 6-hour drive through Gaston and Mecklenburg counties. Witnesses later told police that Wall stopped several times, showing the corpse to acquaintances. One testified that Wall lifted the blanket, pointed toward the body, and calmly said, "Yes, I killed him." Detectives would later describe his behavior as disturbingly composed, more exhibition than remorse. Shortly after noon, Charlotte Mecklenburg police received a 911 call about a possible assault with a deadly weapon in the Steel Creek area. At 12:18 p.m., officers arrived on Barron's Lane, where they found Hopper's lifeless body inside a parked vehicle with apparent signs of traumatic injury. Forensics noted the interior blood patterns did not match the location, suggesting the murder had occurred elsewhere. The discovery stunned the residential neighborhood, situated near schools and playgrounds, where families stood behind police tape watching investigators cordon off the scene. As CMPD detectives began their work, they coordinated with Gastonia police to trace the vehicle's route using traffic cameras and phone data. By dawn the next morning, investigators confirmed the crime originated in Gastonia. Gastonia detectives secured the Weldon Street home and recovered 2 shell casings, a handgun, and traces of blood matching both men. Wall was identified as the suspect through witness statements and was arrested without incident later that day. During questioning, Wall refused to give a statement. Forensic analysis determined that Hopper's wounds were consistent with close-range shots from behind. The medical examiner confirmed that he remained alive after the first gunshot before dying from the second. Wall was charged with first-degree murder, robbery with a dangerous weapon, possession of a stolen vehicle, and concealing a death. In July 2025, more than 4 years later, a Gaston County jury found him guilty of first-degree murder. The prosecution called it a cold-blooded execution followed by a grotesque display. The defense claimed self-defense, alleging years of abuse, but the evidence proved otherwise. Wall, now 27, was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. From this case emerge hard truths: silence in abusive relationships can breed danger, violence rarely happens without signs, and emotional manipulation often hides behind affection. Recognizing patterns, seeking help early, and trusting intuition can prevent irreversible loss. Even love, when twisted by control and fear, can turn lethal, and once the line is crossed, remorse can never resurrect the truth. Before moving on, if this truth hits you, press hype, stand with the forgotten, amplify justice, and make sure silence never buries the voices of the lost. Number 2. Adam Mercado. Under the hum of Charlotte's late afternoon traffic, a quiet act of deception turned into a deadly chain of killings across 2 counties. On the 6th of November 2025, 34-year-old Adam Latif Mercado, a convicted felon from Monroe, North Carolina, embarked on a spree that left 3 men dead within hours, a crime sequence that stunned investigators for both its brutality and speed. Surveillance footage from Central Avenue in Charlotte captured Mercado pulling up in a brown Hyundai sedan around 2 p.m. He approached 68-year-old Gerald Barnes, a respected businessman known for his community work, and lured him by asking him to look inside his book bag. As Barnes leaned forward, Mercado stabbed him in the neck, demanding his car keys. When Barnes fell to the ground, Mercado stabbed him several more times before taking his wallet, loading possessions into Barnes' gray Honda Fit, and driving away in the stolen vehicle. At 9 p.m., co-workers found Barnes dead outside the warehouse where he worked. His body showed multiple stab wounds, and the scene bore clear signs of robbery. Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police, CMPD, quickly obtained surveillance video identifying Mercado as the suspect. He was already known to law enforcement, a parolee with nearly 50 prior charges who had cut off his electronic monitoring bracelet just weeks earlier. Hours after the Charlotte murder, the violence spread. Just after midnight, November 7, Monroe Police received a welfare request from CMPD, who had traced the stolen Honda Fit to an apartment complex on Nelda Drive. Inside, officers discovered two more victims, 52-year-old Matthew Charles Moody and 49-year-old James Curtis Wallace. Both men were found dead with no signs of forced entry. Investigators determined Mercado had been knocking on doors, pretending to need a cigarette. When Moody and Wallace let him inside, they were attacked and killed. By early morning, a regional alert identified Mercado as armed and dangerous. Detectives from CMPD and Monroe Police collaborated across jurisdictions, tracing his movements through traffic cameras and witness interviews. Less than 12 hours after the spree began, Mercado was arrested in neighboring Anson County without resistance. The Honda Fit was recovered, containing blood evidence from all three victims. Forensic investigators connected the cases through DNA, fingerprints, and video evidence. The precision of the timeline, 3 murders in under 12 hours, revealed method, not impulse. Prosecutors charged Mercado with 3 counts of first-degree murder, robbery with a dangerous weapon, and concealment of death. He remains held in Mecklenburg County Jail without bond while awaiting trial. Neighbors in Monroe said the murders left them afraid to open their doors at night. Families of the victims expressed anger at a system that allowed a violent offender to roam free despite repeated violations. The case underscores urgent lessons: unchecked parole failures enable repeat violence, trust in strangers carries unseen risks, and vigilance within communities saves lives. Awareness isn't paranoia, it's prevention. In the end, one man's path of violence turned 2 counties into crime scenes, proving that danger often begins with a single moment of misplaced trust. Number 3. Terry Conner Jr. and Stephen Staples. Dawn broke over Charlotte, and in one silent moment, peace turned into tragedy. On the 9th of December 2019, 61-year-old Scott Brooks arrived early to open Brooks Sandwich House, a cherished family-run business he co-owned with his twin brother, David. 2 men, later identified as Terry Conner Jr. and Stephen Staples, waited outside, armed and ready. Surveillance footage showed them approaching as Brooks parked. They demanded his wallet, stealing roughly $100. When Brooks drew his own gun to defend himself, a brief exchange followed. He was fatally shot within seconds. The suspects fled on foot, leaving him bleeding outside the restaurant. By 6:15 a.m., police arrived to find Brooks dead near his vehicle, shell casings scattered across the ground. Nothing inside the shop was disturbed. This was fast, targeted, and ruthless. Detectives from the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department began an intense investigation. Surveillance video provided the first break, and forensic evidence soon linked the crime to 2 men already known to law enforcement. Conner, a convicted felon with a history of armed assault, was arrested in March 2020 after a SWAT raid uncovered 2 hidden firearms in an attic crawl space. One of them, a .40 caliber Smith & Wesson, matched casings from a later double homicide. Staples, already jailed on unrelated charges, was later tied to the case after investigators found a fake FBI badge, hat, and .45 caliber ammunition at his residence. Cell phone data placed both men near Brooks Sandwich House at the time of the murder and again at Staples' home soon after. While neither the murder weapon nor their phones were recovered, prosecutors built a solid digital and DNA trail. Further investigation linked the pair to other violent crimes, including the killings of Asa Shannon and Siaj Von Joseph on the 11th of January 2020. Prosecutors presented these connections in court, arguing that both men followed a pattern, robbing for quick cash and killing witnesses to avoid identification. Defense attorneys objected, but the judge ruled the cases admissible for establishing motive and intent. The joint trial opened in November 2025. Both men pleaded not guilty. Forensic experts detailed ballistic matches and cell tower records. Parole officers confirmed both defendants were under supervision at the time. Prosecutors described the Brooks killing as cold, calculated, and senseless. The judge had previously ruled out the death penalty, but both faced life imprisonment without parole if convicted. Scott Brooks' murder deeply shook the No-Doc community. Tributes poured in for the man known as a neighbor, friend, and mentor. His brother David, standing outside the reopened restaurant, told reporters, "They can beat you up, but they can't beat you down." A mural of Scott now watches over the same corner where his life was taken. From this tragedy come sobering lessons. Even small acts of greed destroy entire communities. Parole failures endanger the innocent, and awareness, not fear, keeps neighborhoods safe. In the end, one morning's crime became Charlotte's enduring reminder that evil doesn't always come from strangers, it often walks among us. Number 4. Curis Atkinson Jr. Before the smoke from a small house fire cleared, police in Charlotte uncovered a scene that would haunt investigators for years. On the 30th of March 2017, 36-year-old Curis Atkinson Jr. and his girlfriend, Nikia Cooper, arrived at the East Charlotte home of Atkinson's parents, Curtis Sr. and Ruby Atkinson. The couple had been evicted earlier that day, and what began as a confrontation spiraled into violence. In a matter of minutes, both parents were brutally killed inside their Glencannon Drive residence. The attacks were frenzied and merciless. Prosecutors later revealed that Atkinson stabbed his father 69 times, while forcing his niece, Ariana Forney, to watch. His mother, Ruby, suffered 17 stab wounds and gunshot injuries to her head and neck. Evidence suggested she tried to defend herself before being overpowered. Investigators would later testify that the violence indicated rage rather than self-defense. For several days, Atkinson and Cooper stayed inside the house with the bodies and the terrified child. On April 2, they fled North Carolina, taking Ariana with them. As they drove toward Washington, D.C., Atkinson allegedly attempted to offer the girl to others for ransom. Meanwhile, back in Charlotte, firefighters responding to a triggered smoke alarm discovered the decomposing remains of Curtis Sr. and Ruby. Within hours, an Amber Alert for the missing child spread across the East Coast. That evening, a 911 call came from a woman inside a white Chevrolet Impala parked in Washington, D.C., believed to be Cooper. She reported being kidnapped. When officers located the car, Atkinson refused to stop, leading to a brief pursuit before crashing. Police arrested him at the scene and found Ariana alive and unharmed. Both suspects were extradited to Mecklenburg County, where they faced charges of first-degree murder, kidnapping, and firearm possession. Cooper pleaded guilty in 2019 to 2 counts of second-degree murder, receiving a combined sentence of up to 56 years in prison. Atkinson initially faced the death penalty, but in 2022, the district attorney's office withdrew the capital charge due to COVID-19-related delays that would have prolonged the trial indefinitely. When proceedings began in July 2023, prosecutors described the crime as deliberate and cruel. He made his own niece witness horror no child should ever see, Assistant District Attorney Jody Anderson told jurors. After a month of testimony detailing the graphic scene and the cross-state chase, the jury convicted Atkinson on all counts. He received 2 consecutive life sentences without parole, plus an additional 404 to 532 months for related offenses. Relatives of the victims expressed disbelief, saying there had never been known tension within the family. Community members held vigils and a memorial run in honor of Ruby, who was part of a local running club. From this tragedy, the lessons are grim but clear. Anger left unchecked can turn familial bonds into battlegrounds. Domestic disputes can escalate faster than anyone expects. And awareness of early warning signs can save lives. Evil rarely erupts from strangers, it often begins where love once lived. Number 5. Benjamin Joseph Taylor. It started with silence, unanswered messages, missed calls, and a growing fear that something was terribly wrong. In March 2024, police in Charlotte, North Carolina, uncovered one of the city's most disturbing crimes. The suspect, 34-year-old Benjamin Joseph Taylor, stood accused of killing his girlfriend, 22-year-old Markayla Johnson, and her 2 children, Miracle and Messiah. The 3 had recently moved from South Carolina to live with Taylor, unaware of the danger that awaited them. Investigators determined that all 3 victims died from fentanyl poisoning. Markela's body contained an exceptionally high level of the drug, along with naloxone, often used to reverse overdoses, suggesting she might have been dosed against her will. Miracle's blood contained fentanyl, and her autopsy revealed bruises around her mouth and wrists that had been bound. Matthias also had fentanyl in his system, along with cocaine and sedatives. He suffered blunt force injuries to the head that, while not fatal, showed clear violence. The last known contact with Markela occurred on January 20. By March 3, her family reported her missing after receiving suspicious text messages they believed Taylor had sent. Detectives began checking Taylor's Charlotte apartment, but when no one responded to repeated knocks, suspicion deepened. Surveillance footage later showed Taylor boarding a passenger bus and leaving the state. On March 15, officers obtained a search warrant for the residence. Inside, they found a plastic storage bin containing Markela's body, wrapped in layers of plastic and diapers, surrounded by fans and air fresheners. The following day, a warrant for Taylor's vehicle led to the discovery of 2 gym bags in the trunk, each containing the remains of a child. Miracle's wrists were bound, and both children had been wrapped in cords. The evidence prompted an interstate manhunt. That same evening, deputies in Imperial County, California, located Taylor at a campsite near Salvation Mountain, roughly 2,000 miles away. He was found living in a tent, surrounded by unmarked pill bottles. Body camera footage captured the quiet arrest. Taylor appeared calm and detached. He was extradited to North Carolina in early April. Charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder and multiple counts of concealment of death, Taylor pleaded not guilty during his first court appearance. A judge denied bond, citing him as a tremendous danger to the public. Prosecutors described a long pattern of domestic violence and manipulation. Taylor later rejected a plea deal that would have limited his sentence to 46 years, choosing instead to face trial for life without parole. Markela's mother, Markeisha Johnson, wept outside court, saying, "She was a good mother. She just wanted to make a better life for her kids." CMPD Chief Johnny Jennings called it, "the kind of case that stays with you forever." From this tragedy, 3 warnings stand clear: silence in abusive relationships can be deadly, signs of coercion should never be ignored, and unchecked addiction often breeds unimaginable violence. Evil rarely strikes without warning, it grows quietly in the shadows of trust. Number 6. Mache Darby. It started as a night like any other in uptown Charlotte, until the sound of a speeding engine turned into tragedy. Just after 2 a.m., on the 1st of December 2024, 40-year-old Mache Ulysses Darby drove his silver Mercedes-Benz eastbound on West Moorhead Street. Behind the wheel, he was intoxicated, his blood alcohol level later measured at 0.15, almost twice the legal limit. At 105 miles per hour, he struck 23-year-old Ryan Zadrozny, who was crossing the road with 2 friends after an evening out watching college football. Zadrozny died instantly, thrown several yards across the pavement. His friends escaped unharmed, left in shock as Darby's car disappeared into the distance. But Darby didn't stop, he continued driving through uptown, fleeing the scene at high speed. Officers from the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department's Central Division quickly located the heavily damaged vehicle near South Mint Street. When they attempted to stop, Darby accelerated again, initiating a brief pursuit that ended moments later when he crashed into 2 parked cars. Officers arrested him at the scene and transported him to the hospital for evaluation. Detectives from the CMPD's Major Crash Investigation Unit began reconstructing the events leading to Zadrozny's death. Skid mark analysis and surveillance footage confirmed that Darby had been driving at more than triple the speed limit. Witnesses described seeing the Mercedes swerving just seconds before impact. Inside the vehicle, officers found open alcohol containers, and Darby later admitted to drinking tequila earlier that night. Toxicology tests taken at 3:08 a.m. confirmed a BAC of 0.15. As the investigation deepened, detectives uncovered a grim history. In 2011, Darby had been convicted in another fatal DUI crash that killed 55-year-old Robert Hall in East Charlotte. He had served about 18 months in prison before being released on probation. DMV records also revealed multiple license suspensions and previous citations for reckless driving. Despite that history, Darby had managed to legally obtain another vehicle. Investigators pieced together the timeline using dash camera data and cell tower pings. They determined that Darby left a local club shortly before the crash, driving less than 2 miles before striking Jadarius. The vehicle's black box confirmed the exact speed, 105 miles per hour, at the moment of impact. Evidence collected from the scene, including fragments of the Mercedes bumper and Ryan's clothing, matched conclusively. Detectives presented the case to the Mecklenburg County District Attorney's Office within days. Darby was charged with second-degree murder, felony death by vehicle, felony hit and run, fleeing to elude arrest, and reckless driving. He was held on a $1 million secured bond, later reduced but still one of the highest set in a local vehicular homicide case. Forensic investigators concluded that both excessive speed and impairment were the primary contributing factors. The combination of repeat offenses and the brutality of the crash made it one of the most significant vehicular homicide cases in Charlotte that year. From that night came painful lessons: driving under the influence kills without warning, prior leniency for repeat offenders can cost more innocent lives, and every driver's choice behind the wheel carries irreversible weight. A single reckless decision traveling at 105 miles per hour ended not only one promising life but shattered countless others in its wake. Number 7. James Thomas Pratt. It started with a smell that lingered in the spring air of 1984, leading police to a door left slightly open. Inside an apartment on Ventura Way in Charlotte's Hidden Valley neighborhood, officers found 27-year-old Sarah Mobley Hall and her son, Derek, brutally murdered. Both victims had been beaten and strangled. The small home showed signs of struggle: overturned furniture, scattered belongings, and a pillow later found to contain the killer's DNA. Sarah was a single mother who worked with children with disabilities. Derek, a cheerful boy with special needs, was described by neighbors as full of light. What began as a local tragedy would remain one of Charlotte's oldest unsolved cases for nearly 4 decades. In 1998, Detective Johnny Jennings, now the city's police chief, revisited the evidence. He preserved the pillow and sent it for DNA testing, a method that was still new at the time. A partial DNA profile was recovered, but it matched no one in national databases. The case stalled again, gathering dust on a shelf while technology slowly evolved. By 2021, forensic science had caught up to what human patience could not. Detectives from the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department's Cold Case Unit used advanced forensic genetic genealogy and, later, familial DNA searching, a method never before used in a North Carolina murder investigation. The breakthrough came when a familial hit connected the unknown DNA to a relative in the state's offender database. Tracing backward, investigators identified the suspect, James Thomas Pratt, then 60, living and working as a handyman in York County, South Carolina. Detectives coordinated with the FBI and local authorities. On the 1st of February 2023, they found Pratt at a small motel where he had been hiding in plain sight for years. When confronted with the evidence, Pratt wept and confessed. Detective Matt Hefner later said, "He told us things no one but the killer could know." Pratt revealed that he had known Sarah personally, though investigators never confirmed the full motive. DNA samples from Pratt were analyzed at the state lab and directly matched to the 1,984 evidence. The confirmation ended what Police Captain Joel McNally called a 39-year pursuit of truth. Pratt was extradited to North Carolina and charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. In November 2023, Pratt pleaded guilty to 2 counts of second-degree murder as part of a plea agreement. Judge Karen Edie Williams sentenced him to 60 years in prison, 30 for each victim. At sentencing, Pratt appeared remorseful, bowing his head as the verdict was read. Sarah's sister, Mary Day, submitted a letter that read, "Thank God for DNA. He lived free while we grieved for 40 years." Detectives, now veterans nearing retirement, expressed quiet relief that persistence and science had finally aligned. From this case emerge enduring lessons: never underestimate time's partnership with technology, never assume a killer's past will stay buried, and never lose faith that evidence will speak when ready. Justice delayed is not justice denied, it simply waits for the science to catch up. Number 8. Desean Maddox. It began as an ordinary Wednesday afternoon in northeast Charlotte, but what unfolded outside a quiet apartment complex on Mallard Creek Road left an entire community in disbelief. On the 13th of November 2024, 33-year-old Jamisha Wilkes, a mother of one and pregnant, stepped out of her home after receiving a call from her boyfriend, 32-year-old Desean Maddox. She believed he only wanted to talk. What she didn't know was that Maddox had been waiting in the parking lot with a gun. Their relationship, once a private affair, had turned volatile after Wilkes discovered Maddox was married. When she refused his repeated demands to terminate her pregnancy, the conflict escalated beyond repair. Shortly before 3:30 p.m., witnesses reported hearing multiple gunshots. Wilkes collapsed beside her car as her 7-year-old daughter, a nonverbal child with autism, remained inside the apartment, unaware that her mother would never return. Maddox fled the scene immediately, taking Wilkes's phone and destroying it beneath his car tires before driving away. Police arrived within minutes, finding Wilkes dead at the scene. The Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department's crime scene search and homicide unit launched an immediate investigation. Within an hour, a critical call came into 911. Maddox's wife reported that her husband had just confessed to shooting Wilkes because of their affair. Investigators quickly located him in Cabarrus County, where he was arrested without resistance. He was transported to Mecklenburg County Jail and charged with first-degree murder and robbery with a dangerous weapon. 2 weeks later, authorities confirmed that Wilkes had been pregnant, and Maddox faced an additional count, murder of an unborn child. Detectives reconstructed the timeline using surveillance footage, cell phone records, and eyewitness accounts. The evidence showed Maddox had driven to Wilkes's home, waited for her to emerge, and ambushed her as she approached her car. Lead investigator Detective Triadley described the scene as methodical, premeditated, and deeply personal. On the 4th of September 2025, after months of proceedings, Maddox appeared before the Mecklenburg County Superior Court. As part of a plea deal, he pled guilty to second-degree murder. The judge sentenced him to 25 to 31 years in prison. In court, Maddox appeared subdued, his voice breaking as he addressed the victim's family. "I am truly sorry. I hope one day I can use my story to stop someone from making the same mistake." The crime left the Charlotte community shaken. Neighbors described hearing gunfire in broad daylight and said the tragedy destroyed their sense of safety. Wilkes's mother, Ji'Reh Howard, remembered her daughter as a caring, quiet woman who loved puzzles, music, and raising her child. "She didn't deserve this," Howard said, adding that her granddaughter still asks why mommy went outside and never came back. From this tragedy come painful reminders: secrecy in relationships can turn deadly, domestic disputes rarely stay private, and early intervention in volatile situations saves lives. Silence enables escalation. Speaking up can save someone's future. Even the calmest afternoon can conceal the moment a life unravels beyond repair. Number 9. Jadarius Irving McCall. It started as a quiet Saturday morning in West Charlotte, but within minutes, gunfire shattered the stillness of the 11th of November 2016. At around 2:30 a.m., officers from the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department responded to reports of an assault with a deadly weapon along the 2800 block of West Boulevard. When they arrived, they found 33-year-old Deon Davis slumped inside a car, fatally wounded by gunfire. A woman, later identified as a passenger in the vehicle, emerged from the chaos clutching her injured hand. She told officers she had been shot during the same attack. Medics pronounced Davis dead at the scene, while the woman was taken to Carolina's Medical Center with non-life-threatening injuries. Detectives immediately cordoned off the parking lot, working under floodlights to recover evidence. Spent shell casings were collected, and crime scene technicians examined the vehicle for ballistic trajectories. Homicide Detective Hoppy, assigned to lead the case, began canvassing nearby residents and businesses for witnesses or surveillance footage. Officers spent the following days conducting door-to-door inquiries, urging anyone with information to contact Crime Stoppers. Despite their early efforts, leads were scarce. It wasn't until months later, through a combination of forensic review, witness interviews, and intelligence sharing, that investigators identified a suspect, 26-year-old Jadarius Irving McCall. Police stated McCall was considered armed and dangerous, releasing his photo publicly in April 2017. The announcement reignited attention around the case and intensified efforts to locate him. For nearly 2 months, McCall evaded arrest. On the 28th of June 2017, the CMPD's Violent Criminal Apprehension Team, working alongside the FBI, tracked him down. He was arrested without incident and transported to police headquarters, where he was interviewed before being booked into the Mecklenburg County Jail. McCall was charged with murder and assault with a deadly weapon inflicting serious injury. Authorities also confirmed that 4 unrelated warrants were already on file against him for other crimes. Police never publicly detailed what evidence tied McCall to the murder of Deon Davis, but investigators cited collaborative detective work and intelligence gathering as key factors in the arrest. The case remained active in late 2017 as detectives continued to collect additional evidence for prosecution. Though little was released about McCall's demeanor at the time of his arrest, officers described him as calm but detached, offering few words. His expression, captured in booking photos, showed none of the chaos that had defined that night months earlier. The murder of Deon Davis did not lead to public demonstrations or legislative changes, but it underscored a familiar pattern. How violent altercations can erupt with devastating speed and how community silence often prolongs justice. From this tragedy arise 3 lasting cautions: anger left unchecked can escalate to irreversible violence, silence from witnesses allows killers to disappear, and even the smallest piece of information can bring closure to grieving families. Reporting what you see or hear might save the next potential victim. Justice delayed is never justice denied, but every moment of silence carries a cost. Charlotte streets have seen love turned lethal, trust betrayed, and lives destroyed by choices that can never be undone. Which case shocked you the most? Share your thoughts below, and help us keep these stories alive, because silence protects no one. And if you want more deep dives into America's most chilling true crimes, make sure to subscribe to Justice Reversed and hit the notification bell so you'll be the first to uncover the next shocking chapter.